These proceedings are being recorded for the sole purpose of constituting the now received written minutes. Tapes are reduced and eliminated recorded records of these proceedings. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held April 4th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. Before we go into guests, I want to remind everyone that the county does have a policy on the conduct of regular and special meetings, and this was approved on May 31st of 2012. It gives the order of the agenda. Public comment at regular and special meetings shall be governed by the following rules and regulations. A period of public comment shall be held at each meeting, either before each official action is to be taken by the board or at the beginning of the meeting. The chairman of the board will preside over the public comment period and may, with his discretion, recognize individuals wishing to offer comment, require identification of such persons, allocate available time among individuals wishing to comment, and rule out any order scandalous, impertinent, redundant comment, or any comment the disconcertable purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. Time allocated for each speaker at the public period at each meeting shall be 3 minutes. Okay, are there any guests concerning county business at this time? Mr. Shorten.
Thank you. Mike Shorten from Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. I just have two quick little things. The first is a letter that I received that was from your office, signed by the 3 commissioners, that was addressed to Andrea McDonald, the Director, Deputy State Historical Preservation Officer. You familiar with that letter?
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple inaccuracies in the letter that I wanted to point out. The first being, Ingram reviewed the interior and exterior walls, floors, roof trusses, and so on. They came in, they examined the inside of the building with a couple guys walking around taking pictures. They never looked at the outside. That being the first inaccuracy. And the next paragraph, it says, ultimately the church members consented to conditional approval of the project when it was granted by the Jim Thorpe Borough. And that obviously is incorrect. Once the borough granted the conditional approval, that's when we actually filed suit. So I just wanted to correct that for the record.
Well, for the record also, it is my understanding at the borough meeting that you were okay with the conditional approval. The other issue, as far as the inspection outside, it was a matter of going outside. We needed scaffolding to complete that project. So we'll check that.
Right, but the point is, the concerns expressed to the Historical Society was that those things had taken place and they hadn't.
Okay.
That's all. Just a matter of correcting it. And then the next thing is, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I noticed and I'm asking about this now because obviously once you guys get into your thing, I'm not able to. But I'm noticing under item 19-190, for approval, cancellation of the award of all prime contracts for the Susquehanna Street project as follows, and then it goes through and lists all the different contracts that are being canceled. Is there a reason for that?
The solicitor will address that after the vote.
Will we have a chance to discuss it, or we're gonna have to
No.
wait till next week? I'm sorry?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so you don't wanna comment on it at this moment?
No. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, any other guests? Mr. Drury.
Yeah, my name is John Drury, active in the town for 30 years in historic preservation and also in business. I wanted to update you on what's transpiring in a committee that has been formed that you're well aware of now, I suppose. That's a SOS committee. There's about 10 members, nonpartisan committee made up of a cross-section of local interest, people in recreation and historic preservation, the business community, of course, people from the church. I just wanted to let you know that as a group, we're available to you if you want to collaborate with us. We would regard ourselves as stakeholders and enjoy having a gathering, a seat at the table instead of a 3-minute shot here on a Thursday, okay? So we want you to know that. Also, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that the product in this town is oldness, old buildings, old streetscapes and landscapes and sight lines. That's what we sell here. That's why this town is doing well, and by extension, the county. Anything you do to destroy any of that, you're interfering with the product that we have to sell. Okay, so now let's just talk about what you want to do on Susquehanna Street. Right now, you can walk down Susquehanna, you can look up.
We're being redundant here.
Is that being redundant?
I would think so.
Is that
3
redundancy?
minutes? We're 3 minutes,
We're gonna talk real fast.
we're gonna abide by the policy.
Uh-huh. I can't borrow anybody else's
No.
3 minutes?
No.
Edie said I could have for 3 minutes.
You can have mine too, Jim.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Drury.
That's it then?
That's it, 3 minutes.
Okay, remember where the money's coming from.
My name's Mark Wrights. I live in Jim Thorpe. I worked for the St. Mark's Church as a groundskeeper for 15 years. I poured out the topsoil and the grass seed and seeded the ground in the southeast cemetery. The tombstones dissolved, turned to dirt, and they're broken, and we buried everything. But the bodies are still there. It's hollow ground. They don't have a voice. And your parking garage is a desecration of holy grounds. You have no emergency contingency plan, no stormwater management plan, construction site less than 100 feet from a known stream. You hid behind the rules and regulations at Packington Yards, created nothing. What makes you exempt from the rules and regulations? Stop the Susquehanna Street project. You never did your homework on the project, and the bodies are still in the ground.
Anyone else? Lukasevich.
Good morning, Commissioners. Edie Lukasevich. My question is this. I know no matter what we do here, you people will continue to go through with that project on Susquehanna Street, even though there are other choices. So with that in mind, I have a question. When you do your project on Susquehanna Street, are you going to bring back, say, like for instance, will you move the Area Agency on Aging back into Jim Thorpe rather than leaving it in Palmerton? Are there plans for that? As long as you're going to be doing all this work, and I think everyone is aware it will happen. Will the Office on Aging be moved back to the center of the county where it should be, where it never should have been moved to Palmerton to begin with, because it's unfair, it costs more money. I mean, maybe the rent for the building down there is cheaper, but in the long run, when your workers leave there, and if they have to go from Palmerton up to Tresco or any of those areas, they're getting paid mileage, and it's a lot more mileage than if that office was in the center of this county, and those people, say, would go from here to Tresco, or if they would go from here to Palmerton. Are there any plans, when you go through with your project, which I think everyone here knows it'll happen no matter what we do, or how we feel, will the Area Agency on Aging be one of the offices that will be moved to Susquehanna Street?
No, it will not. The office building will be filled by adult probation, collections, register of wills, juvenile probation, and the space for an additional courtroom, because we are to the max now, as our court staff can tell you.
Then
No,
maybe-
we do not have that room for that, and to begin with, that would take up even more parking spaces in Jim Thorpe, which we do not have.
Then maybe money would have been better spent if all of the offices, like you have 2 other buildings here in Jim Thorpe, like you're scattered all around. So what? I mean, you have a building, 2 of them on the east side, you have the garage, and then you have the old other building. I don't know what you keep in that building over between North and Center. Isn't that an office owned by the county also?
That's rented, and that's
Okay, so,
Things in that building will go away, then that rental will go away into the storage.
so maybe money would have been better spent if you would have bought, maybe if you would have looked up to the building, to the school building and never jumped through it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Since we're being quieted down now, remember that when you go to vote.
Remember the rules.
Remember.
All right, Chris Lukasevich from Jim Thorpe. So what is the threshold for correspondence being annotated in the agenda? Okay, next question. I understand from last meeting, there's no bathroom in the $600,000 maintenance garage. Is that because of no sewer line?
It's because it's a storage building.
Okay, so when they wash their hands up there after doing maintenance or stuff, where will that water go? There's no water?
There is no water, no storage.
No water, no
It is a
sewage.
storage building.
All right, so there'll be no
That's
maintenance.
what the application was for.
All right, everything written says maintenance facility, but maintenance garage. Oh, well, I'm on my time, this is comment period, so. So county was awarded a $150K grant towards the Emergency Operation Training Center, but requested $500,000. So where's that Delta money gonna come from?
Well, we'll continue to do a grant applications and, move forward. If we have to cut things out of the training center, which I will discuss later.
All right, thank you. Then, 3 times now asked about operating costs for the parking garage. When is Boyle gonna give us some numbers on the annual operating costs for the parking garage and necessary office space?
I still don't have that.
So task condition standards. Boyle, we need numbers on annual operating costs. Task, provide assist. So no date was given to them, suspense date to provide those numbers? So what if it isn't done by budget time? All right. So 4 to 5 weeks ago, I asked about the $30 million guarantee that was provided by the county for Granada Hutton and Palmerton Hospital that no longer exists. Gentleman made some comments, however, that actually didn't clarify the issue. So Commissioner Gerhardt, can you explain to the public why we continue to underwrite $30 million or guarantee it for hospitals that don't exist, and understanding that St. Luke's has a revenue of over $1 billion a year?
That has been absorbed by St. Luke's and is being paid. The counties have to have an authority in order to have a bond. As long as those bonds are being paid, there must be a hospital authority.
But why are we underwriting $30 million or guaranteeing $30 million for facilities that no longer exist?
There is a change of direction for the hospital. At the time, we did the bond. It was to keep employees and medical care.
That's in the history. I'm talking about post
Okay.
incorporation of Granada Hutton.
Our financial advisor was here, explained that in great detail, who was the individual. He
But
explained to you very carefully.
he didn't do that to the
Consider-
satisfaction.
Don't talk over that.
He didn't, no, wait, I'm asking my elected official. I'm not asking the solicitor. He's not an elected official. So go ahead, hit the gavel. Commissioner Notstein, the public wants clarity. They did not understand his comments that were made. So they would like a
We'll get that
layman
clarified.
example.
We'll get it clarified.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Any other guests concerning county business at this time? Hearing nothing, we'll move on.
Report of executive sessions held.
There was one executive session held on April 8th at 11 a.m. for personnel reasons.
Department reports, budget transfers 2018, 2019.
So moved.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
There are no supplemental appropriations. Expenditures, approval of check numbers 204935 through 205088 for expenditures for the general fund clearing account, totaling $893,050.24.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
The treasurer's report?
Move to approve.
Second?
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. At this time, we'll recess our regular commissioners meeting for our salary board meeting. Ready? This time, I'll call the recessed meeting of the Carbon County Salary Board meeting to order. Wait,
Yes.
okay? Reconvene guests concerning salary board issues at this time. Any guests concerning salary board issues at this time? Hearing none.
Report of executive sessions held.
There was one executive session held on April 9th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
First item is court administration, domestic relations, Judge Nanovic.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to change the salary of the one domestic relations director, which is currently at $51,815.40 per year. It's a grade S 14, step E, to $48,830.60 a year, which will be a grade S 14, step C, effective as of April 15th, 2019.
Second motion.
Judge Nanovic?
Yes.
Mr. Cramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, and I think I understand the reason, there is gonna be a change in personnel there. The salary that's currently in place for the deputy or assistant domestic relations director, that's not being changed, so I understand that doesn't have to be addressed here today. Is that why it's not on the agenda?
That's correct, it already is.
That's what I thought, so I just wanna make sure I'm clear on that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you, Judge.
Next item, recorder of deeds, Mrs. Beecher.
Good morning. I'd like to establish the position of one acting first deputy at $42,278.60 per annum. It's a grade S5, step M, effective April 11th, 2019.
Second.
Mrs. Beecher.
Yes.
Mr. Cramsey.
Yes.
Mr. Gerhart.
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, corrections, establish the position of one sergeant at $19.83 an hour, grade S6, step F, effective April 11th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. Any further business for the salary board? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. I'll now reconvene the weekly meeting of the commissioners.
Next item is the personnel report.
So moved.
Second for approval.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Correspondence was received as listed. Copies will be made available to the press upon request. Children and youth for approval and execution. Amendment number 1 to the purchase of service agreement dated January 17th, 2019 with Affinity Forensic Services doing business as the Pennsylvania Forensic Association of Reading, Pennsylvania, adding rates as listed. The amendment is effective July 1, 2018, with all other provisions remaining in full force and effect.
Move for the amendment.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Courthouse clock tower for approval and execution. Proposal was received from C&D Waterproofing Corporation of Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $4,750 for replacement of missing terracotta tiles on the clock tower due to wind damage. High lift mobilization is needed as well as traffic control. Approval is recommended by the county's consultant, Joseph Jenkins.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Emergency management for approval and execution, 2019-2020 hazardous material response fund grant application, hazardous material emergency response program report for submission to the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Human Services for acceptance, the fiscal year 2018-2019 State Food Purchase Program, fourth quarter distribution report, as submitted by Shepherd House Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Solicitors report.
Thank you. Cost allocation for approval and execution. Amendment to original agreement dated July 23rd, 2015 with Maximus Incorporated of Harrisburg to exercise an option to include the years 2018, 2019, and 2020 for cost allocation plan services at the quoted price of $8,200 per fiscal year.
So moved. Second?
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Proclamation for adoption, proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Carbon County.
Move to adopt the proclamation.
Second?
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Susquehanna Street Project, prime contracts for approval. Cancellation of the award of all prime contracts for the Susquehanna Street Project, including precast concrete for Slaw Precast, general construction, Bracy Contracting, rock removal, D&M Construction, elevator construction, Schindler Elevator, fire protection, Davis Ulmer, plumbing construction, JBM Mechanical, mechanical construction, Tri-County Mechanical, and electrical construction, Orlando Defender.
Move for the cancellation of the prime contracts.
Second?
Mr. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Any further business?
Okay. Nothing further.
Further business?
The contracts, you want to talk about that now? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just to answer the issue that I guess would come up on the cancellation of the bid awards. Under the law, the county, once the bids are awarded, has a certain period of time to execute the contracts with the prime contractor. In this case, as we know, there was a land development appeal filed, and as is proper, all of our common pleas judges have recused themselves. So once the judges recuse themselves, the matter is referred to the administrative office of the Pennsylvania courts for them to appoint an outside judge to come in and hear the case. Unfortunately, as of the present time, the AOPC has not yet approved or appointed an outside judge to hear the land development and dispose of that appeal. So, in order to be fair to the contractors, who obviously are not only committing their resources, but also committing their personnel. They have a large number of employees involved in these anticipated projects. And not to put the employment of these individuals at risk, to give them time to go out and be able to work on other projects, since we're still at the beginning of the season. So their employees would not be prejudiced by any delays in this project. The county believes it's in the best interest of both the county and also the prime contractors and their employees to cancel the bid awards at this time, until such time as the judge is assigned and we can make a determination as to the appropriate timetable for the land development appeal being disposed of. We could tell you that we, obviously, until that judge is assigned, we would not have a timetable for again, re-advertising the bids on the project. Once the judge is assigned, we will then have an idea as to what that timetable might be. So, so that's what we're waiting for at the present time. The one thing that will go forward at this point is the demolition of the archives building, since that is not technically part of the land development plan. So, if there would be any questions, we'd be glad to address those then after the further business, I guess.
There's something else in this before I get into the EMS, the carbon engineering. Okay, regarding the water line issue at the prison, we have a letter from Carbon Engineering that states some of the issues here, summarizing the conversation between employees and water line freeze here. There are several phases to the Emergency Operations and Training Center project. As part of the first phase, the access driveway to the existing Operations Center and 911 Center is being widened to accommodate two-way traffic. In order to construct a two-way driveway, the stormwater from the existing roadside swale had to be collected into inlets and conveyed through pipes. As-built information regarding the existing water line showed the horizontal location of the water lines between the well, the prison, and the water tank to cross the proposed storm sewer pipe. Per the contract specifications, the contractor dug test pits at the location of the water line that is shown on the prison as-built plans. No water lines were found to be in conflict with the proposed storm sewer pipes. While installing one of the last runs of the storm sewer pipe in late December, the 4 water lines were found at different locations than shown on the as-built plans and in conflict with the storm sewer pipe. The water lines were covered with a thick line of straw and tarped with while a plan was developed to resolve the conflict. A change order was approved on January 15th, 2019, and issued to the contractor on January 24th, 2019, for work to lower the water lines. Prior to starting work on the lowering of the lines, a plumber was needed to install a valve and fittings inside the prison to supply water from a tanker truck while the work was being done. Carbon Engineering was asked by the commissioners in the first week of February 2019 to complete the work to have a contractor install a valve and fitting in the prison. A proposal was then solicited from a company specializing in wet tap valves. The proposal was reviewed and submitted to the commissioners on February 15th, 2019, and approved on March 7th, 2019. The wet tap was then installed on March 8th. The chain of events took place over a period during which the water line froze and became restricted enough that on March 4th, the supply from the well on the site to the water was less than the demand by the prison. At this point, the water level of the tank dropped to the point where the tank was empty. Immediately upon discovering the frozen line, it was thawed and covered with a thick layer of wood chips. The prison maintenance supervisor noticed a drop in the flow meter readings from the well prior to the weekend when the water line froze, but the decrease in flow didn't seem significant enough to understand there may have been a problem. During the period of time when the water lines were covered with straw and tarps, there were several cold spells when the temperatures overnight dropped below 0 degrees and the water line did not freeze. Given the chain of events leading up to the loss of the water at the prison, it is my opinion that damages occurred during the water line freezing was not that of the contractors. Please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, just a very unfortunate set of circumstances. Unfortunately, the valve was not installed before the incident occurred, and we had to do what we had to do to supply the water for, especially for sanitary conditions, as soon as possible. So, okay, that's all I have under that.
Okay, Commissioners' reports, Commissioner Gerhart.
Yes, just want to share a letter. This letter came from Danielle Shapiro. She's a senior at Chimthorpe Area High School. Her, Brielle Long, and Jillian Sells did a talent show at the high school auditorium for their senior project. The project consisted of auditions, rehearsals, and a final show. Their advisor was Mr. Spurt, a math teacher at the school. Also, they received assistance from Mr. Conrad, a physics teacher who helped them with the stage, the lighting, and music setup. They charged $5 for adults, $3 for students. There were a total of 16 acts that were put on. They also had 2 hosts, Kendall Heron and Austin Williams, that were judges. Melanie Sepulveda and Dominic Bierman and Kylie Lilly were judges, and the winner received a $30 gift card. In closing, she has, we did our best to make this project an enjoyable and beneficial experience. We are happy to be conducting a project in the area that we all have a passion for as actors, singers, and dancers. They decided to donate the money to the animal shelter. The money they want used for spay, neutering, and chipping of the animals, which will give the dogs a better chance to be adopted. They raised $675, so we want to thank Danielle, Jillian, Brielle, and everyone involved for their very generous donation. Also, I want to clear something up this week. Last week there were many accusations at the meeting. The one that upset me most was Mr. Dulce's comments about me not wanting to buy water from Vogel Farms. The chairman, Commissioner Notstein, was on site when we determined we had a problem with our maintenance director. I believe Ben Stemrick was up there. Wayne was in touch with the Board of Commissioners through text messages, via phone several times, did a great job. A list of vendors was provided to Mr. Notstein from, is it Pima? Wayne?
The first list came from our resource guide.
Okay, and Vogel Farms was not on that list, okay? Vogel Farms is in Packard Township where I reside. Just because there may be differences in personalities between Mr. Dulce and myself, this was about public safety. It was about our employees, it was about the inmates at the prison. Public safety is extremely important to me, so I want it known and I want it cleared up that I did not have a problem getting water from Vogel Farms. So that's what I have to say there. And also to some of the people that are attending our meeting, you're allowed 3 minutes. I don't want any more talking over one another. I want some respect in this building. There's a lack of respect for this Board of Commissioners. There's a lack of respect for the solicitor and other people, and it needs to stop. And I want it stopped today. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. What I want to report on today is a serious issue here in Carbon County, and that is the shortage of emergency medical services, volunteers, in particular EMS and the fire. Right now, we have lost 5 ambulance corps already in this county. 5, Summit Hill, Lansford, Les Mahoning just closed in December, Penn Forest, Jim Thorpe, Weatherly. Talking to those people are lucky if they survive till the end of the year. They went to Borough Council to ask for help. One of the comments is that it's not our responsibility. Yes, it is your responsibility to provide emergency services. The problem in the law states is it doesn't say to what degree. The Heighton ambulance now covers most of those stations that are out of service. They have put a unit in Penn Forest, in Jim Thorpe, and in Lansford to cover Summit Hill and Lansford. The problem with Nesquehoning now not having an ambulance, and it was due to lack of volunteers. They were down to 6 people. We cannot run a 24-hour operation with 6 people. Impossible. Funding probably wasn't there either. We have other ambulance corps that are in dire need of help. They need volunteers. According to the latest existing update, we have 29 volunteers in whole county for EMS, and most of those are backup units, rehab units that come in when we have a major incident to bring in water, coffee, and drinks and warmth, and they also do blood pressure and pulse and check on our emergency responders when they're in a burning building. They check them when they come out, make sure they're good enough to go back in. If not, they don't let them go back in because it's safety. We have approximately 122 paid staff in Carbon County. Lee Heighton alone, because of covering 5 stations or 4 stations, has 30 full-time, 30 part-time. Their budget is just short of $4 million. I don't have the statistics today yet. Mr. Williams was supposed to be here because we passed that proclamation for telecommunicators. The problem exists, the paid staff, it's only part-time. We still have a dire emergency as far as being able to hire. Lee Heighton and Mahoney have both been advertising for additional help. Lee Heighton is raising the salary for part-time people trying to get help. The problem with volunteers, because of getting them, is the cost. They have to go out and spend at least $1,200, 200 hours of training to become a volunteer. And people just don't volunteer anymore. To be a paramedic is over $2,000. Dollars just to get started on being a paramedic. Most of Lee Heighton's units are paramedic. They staff anywhere from 3 to 6 paramedic units, depending on the peak hours, etc. The other ambulance corps, I'm sure, are in the same boat. Palmerton, Weatherly, what else we have here? Mahoning would be in dire straits. But look at what Mahoning ambulance does. The bingos, the hall rentals, the dinners, and everything else that they do to raise money to exist. The people don't have time to commit anymore to all the training. This resolution, Senate Resolution 6 was set in 2017, a committee of 35 people to study the issues. And there were 29 different recommendations for retention, recruitment, and other issues. It's similar to a report that was put out in 2014. At that time, I think it was 23 recommendations. Very little was done. We did have the tax incentives recently, but it's not enough to keep our volunteers there. The county task force, or the County Commissioners Association, has created a task force which I sit on. We have met in Harrisburg. We'll be meeting again in June, and we will be bringing together the Township Supervisors Association, the Borough Association, Department of Health, Communication Centers, other elected officials. We do have 1 or 2 people already on that committee, on the task force, to look at the issues and try to come up with a common goal to resolve the issues. And a lot of this came about because of the counties, in the upper end of the county, state, I should say, are facing severe crisis. An hour till they get an ambulance. If you're having a heart attack, you're in a serious accident, you don't have an hour to wait. People better wake up and smell the roses, people. You know, people are gonna die, homes are gonna burn down. I know it was brought up this morning about the training center. Every one of the municipalities, when we started this project, supported a training center. To give you an example, this is the course catalog just for the State Fire Academy and all the magnitude of courses. That does not include Department of Health courses, does not include Forestry Department courses, and other outside agencies. Most fire departments today, there have been more and more issues with fire departments scratching, meaning they can't get anybody out the door. So those municipalities and those residents should be concerned and start paying attention to what's going on. It is not going to be a short, easy fix. The groups that we had in the last meeting in Harrisburg was retention and recruitment, which is the group I sat on, finance, and the other one is level of service. We have to come up, we have to start working together to resolve the issue, and we will be meeting again on June 3rd in Harrisburg with all the other shareholders. But I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention today, that we have a serious, serious problem. We cannot be sending our volunteers, our fire apparatus out of county to get the proper training. It is the borough and township responsibilities to provide that training. Remember, it's your liability. If they are not properly trained, that something happens, borough or township are responsible. The person, the volunteers, are responsible to return to their families alive and safe. Our job is, number 1, our own safety, number 2, the safety of our constituents, and the third is safety of their properties. So the volunteers, again, and what's happening too is because of the low manpower, especially, I'll give Jim Thorpe as an example. No longer during the day do we have, they used to have 4 fire companies, I think they're down to 2 now, basically. And they have a structured dwelling fire, Lee Heighton and Nesquehoning are automatically dispatched. Almost every department has an automatic dispatch for all structure and dwelling anymore because of lack of manpower. Those are expensive taxi cabs coming from other communities to help out each other out. The water rescues, the Glenanoka rescues, sometimes takes 4 or 5 fire departments because of the amount of manpower, and it takes anywhere, if we're lucky, a half an hour up to 5 or 6 hours till people are extricated from those types of environment. So, you know, we wanna keep our residents safe, we wanna properly train our people. You know, it's not only for fire and EMS. Our training is for police officers. We're planning a police training building for active shooters. The sheriff's department, all the county agencies that are required to do use of force training, weapons training, etc. It gives the police departments an opportunity to work with the sheriff's department on active shooter training, gives them a training building and a tower to set up different scenarios to work together. Children, youth, and almost all the agencies, including private industry, where we provide training through the local emergency planning committee on hazardous materials and specialized fire training. Most people do not realize the only required training that one must have, including borough workers, police officers, EMS, responding to any type of hazardous materials incident, including oil spills, must have their 4-hour, it's still 4 hours, courses regulated by 29 CFR, Code of Federal Registry, 1910.120, required by law to respond to any incident that everyone is required to have. Anything else, the other thing with training, to be certified, the better trained, the better equipment, your insurance rates are governed by training, equipment, communications, etc. So, you know, please start to think about what you can do to help the emergency services, what you can do to volunteer, because especially in our smaller departments, they don't have the expertise of a secretary, they don't have the expertise of a treasurer, etc. They don't have auxiliaries to raise money. These people can't be out raising their money and buying their own equipment. You don't expect it of the police departments, so why do you expect it of the fire and ambulance? So, I will keep you updated as I get more information, not only from the county, we're trying to do a county report, but also on the state level as things progress. And we are hoping to have a report for the County Commissioners Association at our November conference. We will be probably meeting monthly, if not more, in the meantime, to come up with some serious recommendations, and a lot of them are legislative that we have to push on legislative.
May I say something about the
I
firemen?
understand, Mr. Kucinich, but I gotta abide by the rules. I set the rules today.
Okay, I
gotta
just
live
want
by
you to know,
them.
without our firemen, we're in deep trouble. And I thank you for your service to the fire
Well,
company.
thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned. Let's do this. Okay, Amy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a quick clarification with regards to what the planning status said. So everything right now is just kind of delayed, so you'll rebid the project after all the appeal takes place, so.
Yeah, we'll be in touch and continue discussions with our consultants. And once this clears up a little bit more, we'll be able to give everybody a better picture when that's gonna take place.
Okay. I know you did say the demolition of the archives building will move forward. Do you have a timetable on that?
We're gonna bid that, we'll have to rebid that, just that part of the work, so we anticipate that as soon as our architect gets that together, it'll be rebid promptly and ready to go forward.
May I have copies of the water line, letter you wrote, as well as a copy of the letter Commissioner Gerhard talked about with the talent show? And on the personnel report, you have the change of statuses, the judge kind of touched base a little bit on it. I saw Pierre and Bridget are changing places. I know most likely you're not gonna be able to give me an answer, but I have to ask, is there any reason?
Brig's not here, and I don't wanna speak for the judge or anything. Better off talking to courts. I don't wanna speak for them. That's, their department, they're the department head that the elected official that oversees that department, but, it's just a football.
And I believe that is all I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, Kelly.
Oh, yeah, just copies as well. Thank you.
Ben.
I could also
of the copies as well as copies of the final 3 correspondence. As far as the Susquehanna Street project, have you guys been given any kind of time frame as when a judge will be chosen?
We check on that daily. Courts can check online what the status of that is, and as of yesterday, we have no further word.
Okay. Is this costing anything to the county?
Just what we've paid so far, obviously, I mean, but, the delay will cost the rebidding and things like that, yes.
Okay. As far as the water line freezing, do you have a final cost on what that whole incident?
No, that
was?
incident cost let me find it again, 20,000. Too much paperwork today. What it is, $20,476.10, and most of that was for the water. The well driller to come in, pull the pump twice, because the first time it showed it pumping, and we checked it again, pulled the pump again to ensure that it was pumping the proper flow, which it was. And Pete Rodoka, the roads were still covered at the time. Trees were down, we had to get someone in to plow it open. Deal emergency equipment, that was a minor one, $41.20. We could not get the adapter or fitting off the pipe. It was corroded fast, so they had to cut it off to be able to pump water into the system. That was only $41.20. Environmental, Pottsville environmental testing of the water was $100. Dwayne Morwell was just over $1,700. Bottled water was $526. So I will give you an update on that. Talked to the engineer this morning as far as the wet tap that was put in. What a wet tap is, they come in, they put a strap on the valve with seals in it, and they drill through a valve into the pipe without having to shut down. They pull it out, close the valve. So we are ready now at the prison in case, and we should have had it before. This is the second time we had an incident with the electrical line, I think it was that time. And we had to do it. We finally said, hey, this is something we should have in there to begin with. So the prison board recommended the commissioners to do it. And we put the wet tap in. So the issue is now we'll have a water hauler come in before we do the project. We're gonna meet next week and pick a day to do it. We'll have a water hauler there. The big problem was it has to be DE approved. And that was the issue we ran into with that list. And even the list we got from FEMA was, did not clarify which haulers were DEP certified. We had 3 on our list and found out none of them were qualified or DEP licensed to do it. And even the state list, they had about 20 or more haulers on there, and probably only half dozen in the whole state that could haul potable water. So we had to get to do this project, we had to get a pump that is water, DEP approved for water quality, for drinking water. It has to be at a certain pressure, certain volume, because the flush valves in the prison facility are set for about, I think Charlie said, the former maintenance person, at 40 PSI. That's the pressure you need to flush. And then we have to maintain that pressure. If not, what happens, if it drops below that, the water will just run through the valves. And the incident we ran into at the prison, we had to go through the prison, shut off every valve, filled up the tank level before we could even start, and then pressurize the system, and then just gradually opening the valves one at a time. And there were 60-some plus valves, plus the mess we had to clean up at that particular time. So we're doing everything we can to avoid that this time with a tanker being there, 6,500, 7,000 gallons. We'll have bottled water available. It'll be more like a sandwich lunch, when we do this. So hopefully we'll be able to do it day and a half. My goal is to do the water line from the tank to the prison first, so we don't run out of water. So that's an issue too, because even a short period of time of shutting the pump down to switch over to the secondary tanker, we lose the pressure and we're in trouble. So,
Were there any incidents, is there anything inside the prison during all this? Was everything handled satisfactory?
during it,
Yeah.
No, we didn't have any water, and this is what happened, we didn't have any sanitary facilities or anything, drinking water. We provided drinking water, so, we're gonna avoid that this time. I think we've taken the necessary precautions to make sure it doesn't happen. And not only that, we discovered through the process, we have some other issues there. We're gonna be looking at some piping issues, et cetera, and we're gonna have the tank inspected to, ensure that everything's okay before we have another issue, so.
We're dealing with a building, you know, that was built in 1992, Ben, you know what I mean? So now it's time for upgrades and improvements, so we'll continue to do that. But before we close, I just want to thank Commissioner Notstein for his comments today on the training facility. His years of service as a volunteer firefighter, I don't think anyone's as passionate about firefighting as Wayne. And you can't put a price on public safety or someone's life. So money to me, up at the training facility, it's gonna cost us a lot of money, but we're gonna do it in phases. We're widening the road, we're trying to secure as much grant money as we can. Then we'll go to the next phase, which will be the burn tower, and then we'll proceed from there. But at no time will we put a burden on the taxpayers here in Carbon County.
Okay, anything else, Ben? Yeah.
Where does that grant money come from, Commissioner Gerhardt? Is that not my money?